In this episode, we answer the question, can habit stacking transform your sleep for good? We look at how techniques from popular habit books such as Atomic Habits can help you embed good practices to achieve your sleep goals. New strategists, we believe in designing your work and life around energy levels so that you can achieve more, work less, and be healthier. I'm Alex Young, and I've got our resident sleep scientist here, Ashin Vithana. How are you?
I'm good, Alex. How are you?
Not bad. Got a good feeling about this one.
Yeah, I think this will be an interesting one, a bit of a different approach from us.
Yeah, and I guess this whole focus around habits is interesting because this, I guess, reflecting on earlier episodes around recommendations, setting things up appropriately in your room, things to watch out for that will help or hinder when it comes to your consistency or duration. It's actually a lot to keep on top of. It's even for myself, it's hard to actually absorb everything. And when you're ready to go to bed, you just go to bed, I think, generally for most people. So how can we help people when it comes to setting them up for success in a really well-mannered, structured, but not overwhelming way as well?
Yeah,
So something that I've been reading over the last few years and has become a little bit of how I operate is this wonderful book by James Clear, Atomic Habits. That's probably 3 years ago I first heard of that. You've read this as well, haven't you?
Yeah, I have. Yeah.
Yeah, so this is something that it hit the scene and it really made a splash. It's not the first book that's come out about habits, but it's one that's made that's made a huge difference and been popularized when it comes to this concept of habit stacking. So we'll look into that and what is habit stacking, what does that and other books of the same sort of genre sort of propose, but also looking at how can we apply it. So very simply, from our own experience, what habit stacks have we created to help us wake up in the morning better and fresher, or what could we put in place to help us sleep better as well? Let me share my screen and have a look at this. So I've got here, there's 3 books that I've sort of found at the moment. I've come across James Clear's Atomic Habits, to begin with, and that was a massive when it hit the scene. James Clear has hit the TED Talk scene as well. Habit Stacking by S.J. Scott was one more recently that I've come across. I haven't read it, but it also builds on top of the same concept that B.J. Fogg proposed and launched initially out of Stanford with his book, Tiny Habits. Each of these books talks about the challenges when it comes to habit formation, particularly if you're trying to achieve a goal. Say I want to lose 10 kilograms in the gym. I want to write a book by the end of the year. I want to have a new job by this point in time. These are all big things, and they're also big hurdles as well. And when you wake up in the morning and try and take a step towards that, it can be incredibly difficult. So the premise behind these are, how do you break them down into habits, not things that you need to think of on the spot, but habits that can build on top of existing habits. I'll stop there quickly. Do you have anything additional to share, or a different or same interpretation of how these books, what they present?
No, I think you covered it quite well, Alex. And if you have any bad habits, how might we replace them with good ones as well using these systems?
Yeah. Yep. I just take us off the screen. So habit stacking formula for Atomic Habits. So this proposes, each of them propose a very, very simple mechanism that build on top of an existing habit. This formula they use is very simple. Before something or after something, I've got a current habit that may be having breakfast. So before I have breakfast, I'll do something else. So the examples I've got there, I should just read the examples. After I pour my cup of coffee each morning, I will meditate for 1 minute. And that may be part of a greater goal. So you may have a broader goal, an overarching goal of being more mindful in your day. And that may be one of a number of things that you do. Now, rather than just say, okay, today I'm going to meditate. In fact, every day I'm going to meditate for 1 minute. What is actually creating the trigger for you to remember to do it? And then secondly, to tie it to something else. And so that's where you've got an existing habit, like taking off your work shoes at the end of the day, like sitting down to dinner, getting into your bed at night. These are all things you're doing already. They already exist. So you've already got habits. How do you stack on top of them your new habits, things that you're trying to achieve, which is small steps? We'll look into that a little bit more detail. This is another version from Tiny Habits, which is very simple. 3 steps. After I do something, the anchor, I will do something, this new behavior, and then you celebrate. So that's something I haven't pulled into mind, the celebration side, but it's something worth considering in terms of each time you do this, you would like to feel some positivity, unless the act alone of applying that new behavior is enough for you. So really quickly, here's how do you create that habit stack. There's 4 steps here generally to keep in mind. That first step is really, well, ideally you want to begin with a goal in mind, and you want to have a smaller block to achieve it. So when it comes to the habit you're trying to achieve, make it small. So for instance, the habit may not be to run a lap of the oval. There's a number of different challenges to actually completing that. Make it really small and light. So something you can achieve within 5 minutes. Secondly, focus on a small win. So it's low effort. It's going to build momentum. The more you do it, and I'll share one of mine, which is just around staying hydrated. On the bottom left there, my goal is improve my daily hydration. So this is real. This is what I have put in place, and one that I've been successful at maintaining for the last 3 years. In order to maintain my daily hydration, or to contribute to it, when I go to the bathroom first thing in the morning, I drink a cup of water. That doesn't keep me hydrated all day. So that's part of a number of different things, different habits. So you want these small, low effort things. If it's too high effort, then there's a good chance you won't hit it. Thirdly, you pick a trigger, a time, or a location. So something is happening at a certain place, at my desk, at my bed, in the bathroom, in the kitchen. Could be a place, or it could be a particular time. Morning, noon, lunchtime, dinner time, evening, when the sun gets up, when the sun comes down. Something, it could be a particular time. 9 o'clock is quite common for things to occur. Something that you'll go, okay, that this time or this place, I've just walked into the office. And then your anchor, and that's a cue that uses one of your 5 senses, internal or external. So that's something that you're doing that will remind you to do something else. So for instance, the second one, improve productivity. So my overarching goal may be to improve productivity. My habit stack is that when I open up my Outlook, my calendar at work, I'll categorize any new emails into delete, delegate, respond, defer, or do. Anytime I open up Outlook, I don't actually do this. I should do this, but anytime, is an example. Anytime I open up my Outlook, I'm going to do this. First thing in the morning, when I open up my Outlook, I'm going to categorize. And that's all part of a great habit to ensure that throughout the day, you're not trying to work out what to do and keep it on top of your emails. So it's a very simple 4-step sort of process to look at how you may create this habit stack. But the best way to learn about how to do this is really looking at some examples. So I've got my morning examples or my morning habit stacks, and Ashen, you've got yours here as well. I'll go through mine, and these are real. These are things that actually I do. And these are all, the goal for me is really to feel fresh in the morning, feel like I'm ready to, I'm set up best for the day. And I'll sort of go through what those very simple things are. As I mentioned the first one, after I go to the bathroom first thing in the morning, then I'll drink a cup of water. I've always got a cup there because you're brushing your teeth in the bathroom. Very little effort, fill it up, have my water, done. Very simple. That's been the best one for me in terms of it working consistently. Uh, After I get changed in the morning, then I will do a 20 push-ups. That one less effective only because as soon as I've dressed, I don't necessarily feel like getting all sweaty again. But the intent is there to actually do some exercise straight after getting ready in the morning. Because, of course, everyone gets changed in the morning. I don't need to think about changing, but when I do change, it's a good reminder to do that exercise following. After I log into my work PC, then I'll do a 2-minute meditation video. So this is something I'm trying to establish and instill now as part of waking up and starting the workday refreshed and clear of mind. And then that last one, then I've got, after I sit down at my work desk, then I'll clean my desk as much as possible. And that's, once again, I'll want a really clear mind when I start my work. You can't see my desk right now, but it is covered in Post-it notes everywhere, which is typical for me. So I kind of need to clear it all off. And I have noticed a dramatic difference in my mindset if I don't have all this peripheral stuff like Post-it notes hanging off my monitor, notebooks, all sorts of things on my desk. So that's something that helps me set up for the day. Ashton, you've got a couple here. Do you want to talk us through them?
Yeah, it's great list, Alex. So mine, first thing when I do, when my alarm goes off in the morning, I'll use artificial blue light. I think I've shown probably one of my devices in our previous episodes. One why I do that. Melbourne's quite cold, or the weather keep changing, whether it rains, so it really helps me to get this blue light sorted if I have the artificial device. And I have associated that with my alarm clock. What I learned in this process, if I don't have it next to my bed, sometimes this habit don't really work well for me. So what I do, usually keep it right next to my bed. First thing I wake up, cancel my or shut my alarm off, and then I wear the light. So I think it helps to reduce that friction. When I finish brushing my teeth, then this recent one, I'll try to do a bit of high intensity interval training. Purpose is to get that kind of cortisol levels up in the morning, so it helps with the stress tolerance during the daytime. To reduce the friction, I try to make sure the shoes are right outside my bathroom, so I don't have an excuse and I can't find my shoes, or I have to go downstairs to get my shoes in. And after I walk into the office room to start working for the day, then I'll grab a cup of coffee. Just try to get the most out of the coffee. I try to make sure that it's about 2 hours from my wake up time at least, so I don't really keep drinking coffee throughout the day, just to make sure that I only stick to about 2 cups. So I try to delay my first cup of coffee around the time I start working.
That's really good. And I like how you've made a note there around reducing the friction for that habit. So that's good consideration to have in mind, that you don't want to give yourself an excuse to not not adopt the habit, because it's like, for mine, if I said 20 push-ups, but I had to do it in a certain room of the house that wasn't next to my bedroom or something like that, then it seems like a small thing, but we're quite good at allowing small things to be reasons not to do things.
That's true, absolutely true. So I think you have to make sure that you cover all the bases and try to reduce that giving you the chance not to do it. Make sure that all the ways are almost like covered, all the bases are covered.
Cool. All right. And just in the use of yours, how easy or difficult have you found it to sort of adopt these? And do you think they've worked for you in terms of forming habits?
I think association or the stacking them really helps, but some discipline requires. I think that's when this reducing the friction piece coming in, to make sure that I don't really give any excuse myself to not to do it.
Yeah.
Initially, I think it takes a lot of effort, but eventually I think it gets easier, or it becomes part of your routine.
Yeah, I found I would just write it down on a post-it note and have it
Yeah,
nearby initially,
yeah,
as I'm trying to adopt them.
yeah.
Also, I won't have too many.
That's
Um,
right.
I've got 4 here to begin with, but that's sort of built up over time, and I may not be 100% at all of them, but and I think learning which ones stick gives you a good indication of the level of effort, and you can always change them up if you need to. Cool. All right. So that's it. These are our morning habits, habit stacks. Let's have a look at some of the ones for sleep, which is the goal here. So when it comes to actually, and we've talked a lot about things, the room setup. We've talked about the light, the
Yeah,
temperature. We've talked about sound control. We've talked about reading in bed, blue light, all those sort of things individually. Hard to remember every little, like a checklist. So that's why I think habit stacks are actually a great way to actually not have to remember a checklist in your head, but just stack on top of the things you'll probably already do when you lay down for bedtime. Do you want to start this time, Ashton? You've got 2 there.
yeah. So just like I think most of our listeners or most people, I sometimes get carried away using my phone. So to tackle that, now when I brush my teeth at night before going to bed, that's my kind of cue to turn my phone off. So I don't start using the phone, and to whatever the notifications or messages wouldn't really disturb my sleep. And then after I
Mm.
lie down in the bed, I'll try to do a short meditation. So purely focus on breathing to calm myself down and wind down and kind of signal myself that I'm going to sleep now.
Just looking at your 2, I gather you don't have probably the same challenges as I may have when it comes to getting to sleep. Um, I'll go through these 4. To be honest, they're not all things that I've actually put in place. They're things that I from an example perspective, I think they'll work really well. Typically, my evenings, as we've discussed before, are a time blocked according to when my kids need to go to sleep or brush their teeth or this or that. So I'm quite cognizant of time. And that becomes, I guess, their schedule becomes my triggers. Um, uh, but here's some things. The first one is one that that I naturally do, which is after I plug my phone into recharge, I'll turn it to silent mode. Always do that because you never know when a tweet or some Facebook
Yeah.
notification or some other important thing like that will pop up in the middle of the night and just takes a little bit of sound to wake you up and disturb your sleep, or someone else's sleep in your room. So that's a great one. It seems really like a no-brainer, but just make sure you do that. So plug my phone in, turn it silent mode. Um, After brushing my teeth, I will choose a book to read and put it on my bedside table. I tend to do that naturally. What I don't tend to do is enough of the third one, which is after I lie down in bed, then I will read 3 pages of my book. And the reason why I put 3 pages is a little technique I learned myself, which was if I want, I was on YouTube. There used to be, I haven't looked lately, but there used to be a lot of videos about people who would read a book a day. I don't know, was it a book a week or book a day? It seemed crazy, but I thought like I'll challenge myself to read more of the books that I purchase. And I found that I was 3 or 4. If you have a low bar, once you've started the book and gotten into it, you'll actually end up reading a lot more. So start off having a low bar, and then I'll end up reading 10 to 15 pages. But that's one that I use after I lie down in bed. Then challenge yourself to read a book as part of a habit of reading more regularly. Last one there I've got is after it gets dark outside, so you can, once it's dark, then I'll shut the blinds. That seems like a no-brainer as well, but once again, that's part of that ritual of preparing your environment, your sleep environment, for bed. Turn the lights off, control the sound, have a focus on reading your book rather than your iPad, which is my challenge. But there's some good things you can put in place. So hopefully this gives you some really good examples of what you can do, what you can try, because you already have those habits on the left-hand side: brushing your teeth, turning lights on or off, putting your phone on the charger or other electronics. So there's things that you've already got, or things that you already do. You can use those to remind you of the next step, which is the habit to build on. Any more comments about that, Ashen?
Great list, Alex, and I can't call out how important that silent changing the phone to silent mode is, because sometimes you will think, oh, I never wake up, I'm a really deep sleeper, I don't hear the phone going off. But sometimes these notifications can create micro arousals. That means you would wake up for like 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds during the night, and that will disrupt your sleep. So that will kind of fragmented your sleep. So it's really important to keep it silent. Ideally, maybe even turn it upside down so you don't the light wouldn't really disrupt you during the night as well. So those stimuli can have a negative impact at times for you and your, I guess, any bed partners as well. So it's very important habit, that one.
Yeah, no, that's a good one. Quite often, my wife's phone will be facing up, and even if it's a silent notification, the screen turns on. Luckily, both of us now are using the Galaxy Flip. And so the screen, I mean, it's only a small outside screen, but you no longer have a massive phone.
That's true.
Brightening the whole room, because, phones these days are quite big and bright. So that's a really good point around the light control. So this is great. I think this should be part of a staple when it comes to, we've talked a lot about all these different things to control to help you get duration, to get consistency. Part of achieving that is also getting the environment right and the habit right. So Ash and I were talking earlier about even for me, if I say 10:30 or 10 o'clock is going to be my trigger point because I'm watching the time all the time because of the kids, then that could be my trigger point. After it turns 10:30, then start my wind down process, whatever that may be. And that also may help peg me to sleeping at a certain time. So if you are aiming for that consistency, that's a great way to do it. So I think that's all for this. I think it'll be good to share the links to those books. I highly recommend them. Atomic Habits, there's audio books on it as well if you're not one for reading. I've also heard good things about Tiny Habits. Slight nuance in the proposed methodology, but very similar in outcome. So highly recommend them. Check them out. They're worth having a look into if you're interested in how to better adopt these approaches. Any final words before you sign off, Ashen?
Just make a start, and I think if you don't overthink it, don't try to perfect it. Just make a start and see where it takes you.
And please share with us. I know we don't have a hugely oversharing or undersharing community, but it'd be great to see what other people put in place with regards to these kind of habits, particularly when it comes to getting to sleep and helping to improve that sleep. And I would have to say, through working on the channel, Ash, and quite a few people at work I talked to about this challenges of sleep. I think it's a common challenge, the act of getting to sleep and getting to sleep on time, particularly for busy people. That's it for today's episode, fellow snooze strategists. And before you doze off, don't forget to hit the like button. If you want to keep getting free tips, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Until then, we're Alex and Ashen. Can't even say my own name. Your trusty snooze strategist, reminding you to catch those Z's and keep dreaming of a well-rested world. So sweet dreams, and see you next time.